Actor Bryan Cranston was rather critical of Donald Trump while he was a candidate running for president. But what does he think about Donald Trump today? Well, recently The Hollywood Reporter caught up with Cranston, and during the discussion, he said something pretty interesting that I think a lot of people, even those who have been critical of Trump, can get behind. Here's what he had to say. President Trump is not the person who I wanted to be in that office, and I've been very open about that. That being said, he is the president. If he fails, the country is in jeopardy. It would be egotistical for anyone to say, I hope he fails. To that person, I would say, fuck you. Why would you want that? So you can be right? He continues to say, I don't want him to fail. I want him to succeed. I do. I honestly do. And if you've got a good idea that helps the country, oh man, I'm gonna support you. I don't care if you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat or whatever. We've got to get away from this idea that our country is political football and someone with a different opinion is the enemy. Assume they love this country as much as you do, and there's always room for improvement. How can we make it better? So look, I actually agree with him. When he got inaugurated, I didn't want him to fail. I thought maybe he'll surprise us, because he didn't strike me as someone who really had an ideology during the campaign. He struck me as someone who just wanted to win and would say whatever it would take to win. But unfortunately, I believe that he's failed us with a number of different things that he's done, from his childish, juvenile behavior on social media to all of this healthcare stuff, to the transgender ban, which, by the way, because it's been a crazy news week, we didn't get to the story, but a federal judge blocked a portion of that. And all the other things, and pretty soon tax cuts for corporations. I don't want him to fail, I want him to succeed, but unfortunately what I predict actually happened, or what I predicted actually happened, and what I wanted to happen has not happened.
Okay, so let me both defend and disagree with Bryan Cranston. First of all, why am I defending him? On 2 counts. One, I like him. I love him as an actor, and I agree with him politically. He even said he'd move to Canada if Trump won. That's what I always tell people, don't say that, you're not gonna move to Canada. Yeah. And of course he didn't move to Canada. I once had a 2-minute conversation with him and I was so happy. Okay, I'm keeping it super real about my bias, okay? But more importantly, I like the sentiment. I like the sentiment that you want the country to succeed no matter who's right. And especially the part that I love about this, his idea is, it's not about your ego. So if we get to a better place, but you were wrong about it, that's great, okay, no problem at all. And I say that all the time. I make predictions on air and then usually they're disastrous and I go, I hope I'm wrong. And from time to time, of course I am. For example, one of my hopeful predictions about Trump, and it was about the only hopeful prediction about Trump, was that he's so counterintuitive and unpredictable that he might actually be able to get a deal between Israel and Palestine.
I remember that,
right?
Yeah.
And I've been wrong. He hasn't done anything about that, and it is very unlikely that he will.
But Kushner's got that.
Yeah, he's got it on lockdown, that's right. Okay, now the parts that I disagree with. So, no, there are parts that I definitely hope that he fails at. And not failing for the country, but failing with his agenda. So if he wants giant tax cuts for the rich, which he does, my answer to that is, I'll be polite and say hell no. I hope he fails disastrously, epically on that, because I think that creating an extra $2 billion in debt just so that they can transfer wealth to the top is a disastrous idea for the country. It would be good for his agenda, it would be great for his donors, and it would be terrible for the country. So, on the other hand, I hope that he succeeds with North Korea. If he fails with North Korea and we start a disastrous war and millions of people die, I don't want to be right about that. And I'm not saying that that is gonna happen, but with Trump, he's so unstable, it could happen, and I'm scared to death that it's gonna happen. If somehow miraculously, not only does he not screw up North Korea, but he somehow topples Kim Jong-un without a shot fired and North Korea is free, I would be ecstatic and I would give him all the credit in the world, right? But the last part of this is, look, he unfortunately, because he's a good guy, Cranston still thinks that they're having a legitimate debate. In Congress, and there's a debate of ideas, and there's good people on both sides. No, there's checks on both sides, campaign checks and independent expenditures.
Ooh, I like that line.
Okay, all right, thank you. So there is the Republican politicians, not the voters, but the Republican politicians are not interested in the debate. They're not interested in any of that. There's no exchange of ideas here. They are paid, it's private financing for private interest. They're paid for those tax cuts and the deregulation. They just deregulated the banks so they could rip off customers and not have to deal with class action lawsuits. That's gonna cost customers billions of dollars. I hope they fail spectacularly in that. Unfortunately, they are succeeding, and it is hurting the actual American citizens.
You are way too nuanced, bro. Like, this is not, you're so funny because look, it depends on how you measure success. And my interpretation of what he said was, I hope, generally speaking, he succeeds in doing the right thing and leading this country on a better path. I don't think he thought about all of the specific proposals and hoping that those specific proposals actually get implemented. Because look, when Trump was running, for me, I felt like a lot of those proposals were just hollow because he had no details. Like, he would just say things that were insanely vague, and he would sometimes, I think, play to an evangelical or conservative base, but I just thought, okay, he's saying those things to get elected. He's not really gonna do it. But no, he's actually pushing for those specific proposals. So I agree with you. I don't want him to succeed in those specific proposals, at least implementing them. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Cranston just means, I hope he succeeds and he does the right thing. But it's up for interpretation.
No, and he comes at it from the right place. And I'm not trying to criticize Cranston, and you're right, I'm being too nuanced, bro. Okay, but last thing on this is that unfortunately it is still a misplaced hope. There is no scenario in which Donald Trump sees the light. Okay.
Oh, I have definitely experienced that feeling of despair. Like,
there's no, like Dianne Feinstein recently was talking about, like, oh, I think maybe he could turn around and do some good things.
Recently.
There's no turning around. There's no good things. So if we're wrong about that, wonderful, okay? But that is very unlikely. So Cranston's heart's in the right place. And again, I hope I'm wrong, but I really, really doubt it. Trump does not have good intent. And if he succeeds in his policy proposals, it'll be nothing but terrible news for America. If you like the Young Turks, you'll love Young Turks membership. TYTnetwork.com/join.